I can't believe we're still stuck with the mouse. The mouse is probably going to be around for a little bit, but maybe we'll change it to interacting with the computer in different ways because digital will become part of our lives in our houses and living. We will maybe use something better than Google Glasses, and we use virtual reality already quite often to explore new spaces. Augmented reality when digital is superimposed onto the real world. And we use digital assistants, could be very helpful. Then we can use this for new ways of publishing. But there are also big dangers of these apps. We'll talk about that too. In this website, there are scientists talking about how we live in the future in 2030. It's called onesharedhouse2030.com. Kind of like the design of it, looks cool, it's like fun to play around with, gives you some ideas how we use spaces, how we will share the world in another decade. It definitely will become much more part of our houses that we control our fridge, our ACs, and security systems, for example, too. Here's a timeline sort of from the beginning when the web just had 1 million users. Then the first browser, Netscape, made it accessible for everybody, but also companies like Yahoo, Amazon, and PayPal, where actually e-commerce comes into play. Then Google started, and music came in with iTunes, Napster, and sort of open platforms like 4chan, but also WordPress, where you could have a lot of blogs. Then more browsers came up, Twitter, YouTube, where users generate the content, and then companies that became digital by default, like we talk about Uber, Via, these car sharing, and also Airbnb, and like other file sharing platforms. Then digital cash like Bitcoin, and new apps, or lately apps that are much more interactive, like TikTok or Weibo and Waymo. And these, I'm not super familiar with that, but there's of course, a much bigger market than the US. Like, here's a study by a company, Bosch, that tries to improve Google Glasses. On the top is what they propose would be the end product. On the bottom is what they have so far. But what they want to do is put the information in front of the user. Instead of the Google camera, you have to kind of look up to use the navigation, which makes sense for a user to not have it like in your view field, the information. But on the other hand, it's very hard when you talk to somebody, their eyes are always like all over the place. So it's kind of a weird thing, but I think we will build in these devices much more subtle that you don't notice them as much. But also here's an Oculus system where you can explore like 3D worlds, or you could also visit other people maybe in different virtually shared rooms. Here's an artist who uses an augmented reality where he builds arts in 3D on a computer and then puts them into the real life and animates them into movies. Kind of good idea. Very simple. Augmented reality is a Pokemon. This guy obviously is really into hunting for it. More and more we'll be using digital assistants to remind us, to motivate us, to guide us. Remember those Macs that had a little touch bar on the top, one model? I don't think they make that anymore. It was kind of useless, but the only like funny use for it that I found was this like Tamagotchi game. Kind of useless. Okay. So now in the second part, we'll talk about ephemeral apps like that are in the moment, that are gone, like Snapchat, and artificial apps. And translation would be a very useful thing. Wearable tech implants that we already have that you don't even think but we already do. How we can use it to publish our work, which would be really useful, and a little bit about the dangers of the apps as well.